Hello, I'm Zan-Misel Κουστώ. Welcome to Stories of the Sea. Entering the undersea world is a spectacular and exhilarating experience. Every diver who has ever entered the ocean has longed to capture on camera the dazzling world beneath the sea, to share with others the majestic beauty and color of a teeming reef, or reveal the mysteries of a newly explored shipwreck. Let's journey with underwater photographers as they capture a part of our world most of us will never see. From the thrill of meeting a great white shark to the pure pleasure of encountering dolphins or exotic marine life. Photographers of the sea capture rare insight into the world beneath the waves.
Whether you're a novice diver or a long-time deep-sea veteran explorer, the moment you take the plunge below the surface of the ocean, you will have entered a whole new world full of mystery, exotic sights that virtually explode in a blast of rich colors. It is completely unlike any place you've ever been before. When you're deep into this world of soothing luminescence and divine silence, it's almost as though you've entered into a center of an underwater rainbow. The world underneath the sea is an amazing separate reality from the world on land. It's literally a foreign place, like an unknown planet on the backside of the cosmos. And it's populated with creatures and sights that are both familiar and utterly strange, and oftentimes even inexplicable. It is full of sparkling fish, jungles of kelp and seaweed, and giant lush mountains that rise up as tall as skyscrapers from the ocean bottom. It is also a vision of such grandeur and appeal that no diver will be able to forget it, and it's a memory that every diver will want to share. Now, the only way for any diver to retain such a memory, or to share such a wonder with a non-diving friend, is with a picture. And today, underwater photography is an art that's no longer exclusively reserved for the professional photographer. Today, underwater photography no longer requires thousands of dollars in complex equipment or a technological expertise that requires hundreds of hours in a photo lab. Today, any amateur with an underwater instamatic camera or inexpensive home video camera can take a beautiful memory home with them. Yet for the diver who does want to go the extra mile, there are techniques, equipment, and special training that can transform any amateur into a top-notch expert in just a few hours of serious study. Whenever you can show your friends some of those mystical pictures or videotape, even the most skeptical topsiders often become firm believers in the magic of the world that exists below the surface of the sea. The sea has not always merely been uniquely rich in graceful underwater marine life and mystical beauty. It is agriculturally super fertile and appears to continually replenish itself with an apparent endless supply of food. Scientists knew that the Earth was covered with over 70% water. And within this water, both fish and plant life flourish splendidly. What no one could figure out, however, was a way to truly harvest all the riches the sea had to offer the world. In 1892, an innovative French scientist, Louis Bouton, had an idea of how to begin mankind's understanding of this enormous and bountiful water world. He would take pictures of it. What you're looking at now is an 1897 French newspaper sketch of Bouton taking his first underwater snapshot. The problem in those days, of course, was that no camera had ever been made that could withstand either the significant water pressure or the substantial water leakage. The French newspaper sketch you're now looking at, published in 1899, is a drawing of a camera Bouton invented that he called his detective camera, which was a fixed focus box that wouldn't collapse or leak. This research was only marginally successful, however, but it did succeed in achieving one thing. It proved the pictures could actually be taken underwater. This research also led to the beginning concepts for another advance in diving technology, the hard hat diving outfit, which was later put to practical use by one of the great pioneers in underwater photography, Colonel John D. Craig, a brave underwater explorer who was featured in one of our previous Story of the Sea episodes. Because of this kind of scientific research, the general thesis that underwater photography could lead to enriched scientific research was not only validated, it was embraced by the entire scientific community. Today, nearly 100 years since a few scientists believed in the value of underwater photography, divers all over the world are snapping pictures for a whole array of reasons, from scientific to the recreational. And for every diver, there's a level of diving and picture-taking that's just right for the adventurous man or woman. Near the Channel Islands off the Southern California coast, there exists a program called Live Aboard Diving. This recreational diving program is just right for the person who wants to learn how to shoot photographs and develop them right on board.
It was a wonderful dive. Just got back from shooting the California kelp. I was suspended about 30 feet, shot about 36 frames. It was a wonderful sight.
This excursion comes equipped with a boatload of people ranging from beginners to diving veterans. Most importantly, it's supervised by a small group of highly trained professionals. On this particular adventure, an underwater specialist, naturalist, photographer, Dr. Dan Gottschall, has come along to help identify the creatures they've photographed. During the evenings after dinner, Dan gives a slideshow to assist with their identification of the fish they've photographed, to help explain the sometimes odd behavior of all these marine creatures. For the beginning diver, these photographic excursions are particularly helpful because they literally take you to the best picture-taking sites available. And they allow you access to creatures and undersea plants you might never have had a chance to see. One of the favorites of every photographer is the colorful Garibaldi. There's also plenty of abalone and lobster, and even a liquid forest of swaying kelp. Kelp photography offers some of the most beautiful deep-sea pictures a diver can ever photograph. However, kelp photography also requires a great deal of caution and awareness. Whenever a diver swims through a kelp forest, he or she must be aware that accidents can happen, even to the most accomplished diver. Although it's very rare that a well-trained diver in just a few seconds of distraction would ever become entangled in a kelp forest, it is vital that all divers remain keenly aware of their surroundings. No diver should ever dive without a diving buddy or without a strong, sharp diving knife that can cut the entangled kelp away from your arms and legs. You'll find that kelp photography will give you some of the most beautiful pictures you've ever shot. And there will always be more creatures and plant life to photograph than the diver has either time or film to photograph them. One of the most efficient parts of this live-aboard trip is that it has its own battery charging area and has its own darkroom to actually develop the photographs a diver has shot. The pros on board also offer photographic and biological classes to help create weekend experts out of any recreational diver. The professionals are there to suggest better shooting techniques to the novice camera operator, or simply to answer all questions about how to snap the best photo possible. These days, underwater videotape is as common as underwater still photographs. And in many cases, because of the obvious real-life movement, it is preferable to many undersea photographers.
One of the most useful aspects of underwater video is that it's not uncommon to come across a creature that you've never seen before. So it's nothing to videotape it, bring it back to the surface, and on the Truth Aquatics boats, they have a whole video system where you can plug in your videotape, replay it, very often make an identification of that creature.
The ability to shoot underwater video has certainly given more definition to my diving, and it's wonderful to be able to share such an experience with those who weren't there. What's really exciting is the television technology has gotten to a point where more and more people can take advantage of it.
One Once a photographer has become comfortable with video technology, there's virtually no limit to what he or she can photograph. In an earlier program, we looked into the great wonders of specialty diving, from the mystery of wreck diving to the eerie fascination of cave diving, to the haunting depths of deep water and night diving. Specialty diving, with the proper training and caution, offers both the beginner and advanced diver a whole new world to explore and to photograph. Imagine for a moment that you could actually bring one of those ancient wrecks to the surface with you on an adventurous wreck diving trip. Or how would you like to explore a cave from the Yucatan or the South Pacific in the comfort of your own home? Well, with a video or a still camera, that's exactly what you can do. And that's perhaps the greatest thrill of becoming a photographer of the sea. And for the fish enthusiast among us, the pictures we can shoot of the creatures of the deep are absolutely endless. In either case, every diver can take off on a hunting expedition where the only shooting you do is with the camera. And that's the best news for the creatures of the deep. Videotape technology has been a tremendous boon to scientific research. Of all the creatures under the sea, no creature has been studied or photographed more often than the shark. And one of the great discoveries of taking photographic records of the shark is that they are not as dangerous to man as people once believed. It is true, as has often been repeated in almost every book or film about the shark, that it is perhaps the most perfect eating machine ever created. It does not prefer eating man over his much more varied meal of the sea. There's much to learn about the shark and its influence on both the sea and man's relationship to the sea. Photography has become a valuable resource in this study. Several years ago, in the clear blue waters off the California coast, Dr. Don Nelson, aboard his research vessel Discovery, conducted an experiment with an audio system that he believed would attract sharks.
This is the low-frequency speaker or transducer that we use to project the shark-attracting sounds into the water.
A small video camera was suspended directly above the transducer that allowed the research team to monitor the action around the speaker.
Okay, we need this little video camera because in this condition, namely in these colder California waters, you sometimes can't see the speaker from the surface.
Dr. Nelson's results were interesting to the fishing industry. His experiments suggested that with certain acoustic attractions, they can actually tune in specific fish. In other words, by utilizing certain sounds, they can call in the fish they want, reducing fishing time and limiting the impact on non-targeted species like sea mammals. During another scientific experiment, this time in the cold waters near Santa Cruz, California, a group of scientists and filmmakers went on a mission to tag a group of basking sharks. In this experiment, Jack O'Neill, well known for his work in designing wetsuits, is working with the Pelagic Shark Research Foundation. This is an organization dedicated to the survival of several shark species. The basking shark, for example, was once harvested for its giant liver, which yielded oil for tanning leather. These gentle giants were almost totally destroyed. The purpose of tagging these massive creatures is to track their migrations and to get an accurate account of the number of sharks in a given area. Jack O'Neill and his team of divers found themselves photographers of the sea when their camera recorded the large basking sharks cruising the surface waters, filtering plankton in their large mouths. This exclusive footage is a rare document of one of the ocean's most concealing creatures.
This is certainly one of the experiences that I will remember from now until probably the day I die. being able to experience these animals on a first-hand basis, being able to touch something this large, this gentle, document these animals and maybe pass this on to people down the road, and hopefully they'll be able to feel the same way.
There are few places where photographers of the sea can better study or appreciate the value of shark experimentation than at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. Although the sharks aren't strictly in the sea, they are photographed and studied in an environment that very closely approximate the surroundings the sharks would normally be in. At SeaWorld, the very latest in laboratory, medical, and computer technology is being applied to raise a new generation of sharks, which spend some of their early days in the hands of man.
We have a breeding population here. It gives us a very good opportunity to actually study the different phases of development, gestation time, and the first year growth rate of a lot of these animals. Really, very little known about the line.
Through the use of professional photography, researchers have learned that the gestation period and manner of birth varies widely between species. The swell shark's gestation is about 9 months, while the horn shark's is around 8 months. Most species, like the bottlehead shark, give live birth. Yet there's another useful purpose to photographing these sharks in such a place as SeaWorld. A great deal of public education is derived from allowing the visitors to glide through the tank while being surrounded by the very creatures that live there. Bull sharks, lemon sharks, brown sharks, nurse sharks, and even the bizarre sawfish. This ingenious concept gives the public an up-close and personal encounter with these predators of the deep, and clearly justifies the educational aspect of both the study and the photography of the sea, even though in this case, we brought the animals and the sea to us. Now, for the most serious photographers of the sea, there is little more amazing or picturesque than the age-old ritual of the green sea turtle building her nest and hatching her eggs. However, this type of photography calls for very specialized equipment and a generous amount of patience. Filming her in the wild and at night poses many unique problems to the photographer. A light source is needed to illuminate the miracle of birth, and the nature photographer must have a portable power supply. Also, extreme care must be given so as not to disturb her at her work. Today, the sea turtle utilizes both the land and the sea for the continuation of her species. Once she's laid all her eggs, she will probably never again see the offspring that she has spawned this night. The mother turtle disappears into the ocean and swims quickly away just as she's done for generations. When she leaves, the photographer will mark this spot and return later to capture the actual hatching process on camera. The photographer must return to this spot frequently so as not to miss the exciting event of newborn hatchlings as they emerge from the sand. For 6 long weeks, the eggs will incubate in the hot tropical sun, and then the hatchlings will break out of their shells and set out on an odyssey of their own. Strangers in a strange and unknown world. Although they're unable to see where they're going, they struggle with an uncanny accuracy toward the open horizon where the shore meets the beckoning sea. Being creative as a photographer means varying your shots, trying to get those dramatic angles. In this case, a split-level shot can be very effective and evoke a wonderful feeling of land and sea in the same shot. There is another incredible realm of the underwater world that photographers of the sea can enjoy. It's called macro photography. In other words, this type of photography is able to capture pictures of creatures too small for the normal eye to see. It's a curious world that mirrors in microcosm the world we know, preserving in essence life as it must have been 2 billion years ago in the Paleozoic Sea. The scientists who view this microscopic view of this alternative world are as much photographers of the sea as any person with a video or 35mm still camera. What these scientists are primarily looking at are plankton, drifting microorganisms that wander the oceans of the world at the whim of waves and currents. Most plankton are single-celled plants, while others are complex animals or the larvae of larger creatures. In unimaginable numbers, the plankton populate the watery world, forging the first tenuous link in the grand pyramid of life, the food chain that unites all living things. Another interesting marine creature to capture on camera with macro photography is the octopus and its amazing birthing ritual. It's not the monster so many books and films have claimed it to be. It is instead one of the most gentle, shyest creatures of the sea. And, as this photography will demonstrate, the octopus is an incredibly devoted mother. Laying as many as 100,000 eggs, she glues them carefully to the walls of her cave. Each one of them is about half the size of a grain of rice. For a month, the mother will tend to them jealously, blowing streams of water on the eggs and combing them gently with her tentacles. She watches the nest constantly, leaving it only to repel invaders. In cases of extreme emergency, the mother octopus has been known to break the membrane of her eggs, allowing her infants to escape in their own clouds of ink. Within the egg, the infant body, as seen in this startling film, has begun to take shape. The pulse is beating, and they lie with their 8 tiny, almost invisible tentacles clutching the nourishing milk at the top of the egg. The baby octopus has everything it needs to develop and grow in preparation for the moment of birth. When the eggs are ready to hatch, they will reverse themselves and come out backwards. Throughout the day and night, the mother octopus stirs the hatching eggs and blows them out of the cave and into the sea. Tragically, although it is the law of primitive nature, nearly all these babies will die, either by accident or from being eaten. Enough will survive, however, as these photographs show that the octopus family will survive, strong and vital enough for the day the whole process repeats itself. As you have clearly seen for yourself, the world underneath the sea is a beautiful, magical universe and lends itself magnificently to the camera and to those men and women who are photographers of the sea. According to today's diving professionals, the era of computerized photography is almost here. Its applications to science and technology and recreation will enhance every diver's passion for photography. From the 19th century, scientist photographer Louis Vuitton, to Colonel John Craig and his first underwater documentaries, to today's sophisticated techniques and equipment, the future of underwater photography appears to be as unlimited as the sea itself.
Underwater photography was once restricted to a privileged few. But now, thanks to special cameras and underwater housing, it is within the range of nearly any amateur photographer with diving skills. Whether you're a serious scuba diver or a novice snorkeler on vacation, underwater photography is now equally accessible. It is a challenging pastime that can be very, very rewarding. With talent and hard work, even the beginner can document the magic, mystery and beauty of the world beneath the sea. I'm Zan-Misέλ Κουστώ, and this is just one of many stories of the sea.